Good morning, everybody. John here at Havoc Maker Studio. Hoping you guys are having a great Sunday morning or Sunday afternoon. Hopefully, you have already had some sort of safe and warm, depending on where you are in the country, Halloween. Hope you guys had a great time, some great costumes. I'm looking forward to seeing the internet just plastered with all sorts of costumes on Facebook and Instagram, especially ones related to our, I don't want to say industry, but our community for gamers like Warhammer 40,000, Age of Sigmar, Star Wars, and Firefly. I'm really looking forward to seeing it. Now, tomorrow is actually the Halloween, the official Halloween day, but most of you probably safely already did it this weekend. I think today, yeah, it is today, or tonight, I'm going to be out at a local group area where we set up in a parking lot, decorate our cars, and we got like about 1,000 some odd kids that come through. It's a nice, safe area to do that in. We have got security and police will come out. It's a good way for those people that don't have a safe area to do their trick or treating. Maybe they're in an apartment complex and they just or something along that line, or in a very rough area. We set that up so they can come out there, and I mean we've got about 50 pounds. I'm not exaggerating, 50 pounds of candy, and that might not be enough. At any rate, that aside, I want to talk about something. It's a little scary. Well, maybe scary to investors, but to the rest of us that have been kind of in the know or have been paying attention, we're going to talk about Games Workshop a little bit. So they've been doing an article over the past couple of years now. It's called the Metawatch, and it's really come about as this is their kind of stepping back into the competitive or the tournament scene and seeing, really, in my opinion, seeing, is this something that we want to get involved in? And I don't think they do. In the long run, I think they're going to be pulling out a little bit. So now this MetaWatch, usually, hey, here's the statistics of where we're at right now with the top armies, what we're seeing in play, and whatnot. Now this one is a little different. And they go through and explain, hey, this is what we're aiming for. This is what we're doing. This is how we do our calculations. And it's something I've talked about before, is that if you want a successful tabletop skirmish game, your win rate, and it's been a couple weeks since we talked about that, your win rate needs to be around the 50% mark, plus or minus 1 or 2%, up or down just a little bit. You don't want too much of a deviation, and it doesn't sound like much, but once you get to 3%, 4%, and onwards, that becomes really significant, because as you have people or armies reaching even the 2%, but let's just stick with the 3%, 3% over. There's those that are 3% under. So now you're starting to approach a 10% difference in win-loss ratios, all the way up to, well, we'll take a look at some of the current numbers. And, well, let's just dive into those numbers first. This is the latest in the gathered data. Now, keep in mind, this isn't every game out there. This is going to be more focused on organized play, so your bigger tournaments, you're not likely too much your local weekend tournaments, especially if they're not being reported via BCP, the Best Coast Pairing app. If you aren't, just do it. It's a great app, and it works really well and helps you keep organized. But there's still some games that are not included on here, right? So looking at these numbers, right now, the Chaos Space Marines and the Tau Empire are at that sweet spot. They're at the 50%. That means that it's a relatively balanced game. You have some losses, you have some wins. And then and I'm still giving it that 2% variation. There's in 51% range, we have Chaos Knights, Imperial Knights, Drakari, and the regular Eldar, Asani, I don't know how to pronounce it. Is that what they are? Yeah, I think that's what they are. The Orcs, Thousand Sons, Blood Angels, and Aldari. That is that's the sweet spot, if you will, for percentages. It's not too much. It's not too low. It's just about right. But even the 2% below is still kind of bad, but in the long run, not. Now the problem that we see is when we start looking at the other numbers. As we go down, we're getting all the way down to the bottom at 39% win rates for Adeptus Astartes and Adeptus Mechanicus, which compared to 50%, that's 11% difference. That's, I mean, in a when you look at 100%, yeah, 11% is not that big, but compared to 50%, that's a big drop. And then you look up at Tyranids with a 59% win ratio. That's putting you a 20% win loss ratio or 20% loss ratio, like compared to the Adeptus Astartes versus the Tyranids. And this is where you start getting those disparities. And this is where game balance is important. So Games Workshop wants to address that. Now, in their article, they very nicely place the blame on you. Here's what they say. They're often new player. They're talking about the lower end armies. So the people that choose these lower end armies, it's really your fault. They're often new players' first armies, like the Space Marines. And it's fair to say that most people aren't especially gifted at the noble art of Warhammer 40,000 when they first start playing. That is reasonable. It also means most players are quite familiar with and how to play against them. This is part of why their results don't quite match their indomitable reputation. It has nothing to do with balance, right? Nothing to do with balance, which it does. That really, it's all on you guys. It is all on you for doing this because let's just face it. The majority of players out there are brand new. There's not all these people who have been playing for decades. No. You're not the majority. No, the majority are all these new players that just started like this week or last week, and it's their first tournament, their first big event. They just got their first 2,000 points painted up in no time, and it's all their fault. It really is. So, what they're finding is that besides it really being your guys' loss, that, well, not finding, but what they're doing to combat this, and they do a breakdown of their excuses why certain units or certain armies are not as functioning as they should be. What they do to correct this, and we're not going to talk about the Leagues of Votann right now because we talked about that at length and everybody else has, is that they are doing quarterly balanced data slates, which is great. I think that they should very actively be looking at the meta and adjusting for errata and FAQs. But when you have to do it quarterly, well, actually, really 5 times a year. So we have our quarterly updates, right? And then we occasionally get, actually more than 5 times a year, we get our quarterly updates from Games Workshop. Then we will get emergency updates, kind of like what happened with the League of Votann. That's not a quarterly update. And then, of course, we have our annual paid update, which is the tournament pack that comes out. I think the Munitorum something. I can't remember what it's called. And that's that. So we got one official one that we pay for $30 a year, plus the quarterly updates, plus the emergency patch updates, if you will. And that's if you can get your hands on it, because we have the Warzone Nephilim, which from what I checked this morning is still largely out of stock. These are mission packs for people to be playing in this year, and Games Workshop is still having supply chain issues, which is another video altogether. So my this is, and I'm going to give you my opinion piece because this is all numbers. This is all in them right now. They're providing us the information, though they're fluffing it up and making it sound like, oh, they're just new players. That's why the armies are bad. That's why there's different win loss ratios, which is BS. But we're going to, if you want to trust them that Games Workshop would never pull the wool over your eyes, that's okay. It is okay because that's your company, that's who you support, it's the game you love, the lore you love. You want to roll with it. So please keep on rolling with it. But it is causing some issues. We've seen lower attendance at events. And when we got data like this coming out, this just shifts the narrative, right? So, not the narrative, but this shifts the balance of power. Because when people see stuff like this, well, you know what? I'm down here in this losing streak, constant losing streak. So, what do? I need to come up here and get Adeptus Custodes or Harlequins, which have been like top for a year or so, or Tyranids even. I need to go ahead and invest in these armies so I can have a better win-loss ratio. And then these get too high and they're like, whoa, wait a minute. These numbers are getting way too high. We need to nerf these. We need to balance these. So they bring them down, which swings the pendulum the other way. And then all of a sudden, all these other armies that are low performing start swinging upwards. The next thing you know, Adeptus Astartes or the Death Guard are going to be on top again, or Thousand Suns someday will be Top Gun armies, and then they will become unbalanced. And Games Workshop's like, whoa, 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 we got a balance issue here. We need to adjust this. So let's go ahead and put out FAQs and erratas. And you know what? It's been about a half a year. Let's go ahead and put out a new edition. And it's just an endless cycle. And the only fix, the best thing that Games Workshop can do for itself right now, is when they're working on 10th edition or whatever they're going to call it. But let's just go with 10th edition. The best thing Games Workshop could do for themselves is come out with an edition, one edition to rule them all. The most balanced edition they have ever had. And then as each of these factions come out in their new books, because we know they're going to be overly priced codexes, and the coursers are going to be the overly priced collector's editions. There's going to be a host of new models that you're going to want to get. Totally fine. But as these come out, they need to maintain that balance. So what they need to do is, instead of putting 10th edition out next year, let's just say that they do that and it's not the old world, is they need to buckle down, set a team up going, okay, guys, here's all of our data that we're getting about all these different factions and with our rule set. Let's go through right now and balance every rule for all these armies right now. And then all we got to do is copy and paste into the new books. Once we get all the flavor text and all the art and everything taken care of, we've already got the rules balanced out. And sure, some armies are going to be up or down 1% or 2%, but not up 9% or 10% or down 10 or 11%. They could do this going forward, and maybe even have on the wall a big matrix, and then have a set of people that are their only job is to take what the designers do, what the team does. Let's say, hey, the new team, the team just put out the new Harlequin book. We need you to take a look at it, or we want to publish it. Okay, let's just go with that. We're ready to publish. Whoa, whoa, whoa. We need to send it over to Karen, Brenda, and Todd. They need to look at it, make sure that you actually balanced it according to our new regulations on keeping things balanced before we run off to the printer. So you just hold off there, Matt Ward or Jeremy Vitok or whoever is writing that book. You just hold on a second. We're going to double check your work. Oh, you know what? We're going to send it back. And because you guys tipped the balance big time. And then get it fixed, send it to printers. We're going to buy it up, and it's going to stabilize this game. And then that allows you guys to be able to save some money and be able to play this game longer than having to replace your book every 3 years, maybe 4 years, but let's say every 3 years. Wouldn't that be nice? Wouldn't that be nice? At any rate, it's showing. I mean, we've covered Games Workshop's fall, and right now they're stable, which is surprising because September, October is kind of a bad month for this type of industry because people are recovering from back to school, or they're prepping for, or they're saving up for fall travel plans for like Thanksgiving and Christmas. And of course, they have to save up for Christmas. They don't have to, but that's what they do. So they're gearing up. So they're back to being stabilized. I have a feeling that they're going to dip again, probably in the next week or two. They're going to dip, but then they're going to shoot back up. They're going to be fine. So right now we're seeing a nice stabilization. The Leagues of Votann go on, I believe it's today that they go on pre-order. So this should stay stable. We might see a little peak, maybe. I doubt it, but maybe. And then it's going to dip. And then we're going to see probably about 3 to 4 day dip, maybe a 5-day dip. And then it's going to shoot up back up to around 70 some odd dollars. I doubt by the end of the year we're going to get up to 80 per share. I think they're going to be stabilizing at this, especially after in November. I think at the end of November, we get the first half of their sales for the 2022-2023 year. So it'll be interesting to see how they make a positive spin of these losses that they've had since January of this year. I mean, this has been, or I'm sorry, since November of last year. Yeah, November of last year. It'll be interesting to see because it's usually, what is that? Gosh, somebody do the math for me. July to November. So their July to November of last year, they went from 155 to 128. And then we're going to see their July of this year, which was 82 to what's looking to be around 70, maybe 75 per share. So not looking too good for Games Workshop. They're not going away. They're still going to be in business. Like I've said before, they're still going to be profitable for about 3 years, but it's still not looking good for Games Workshop. And especially until they address these balance issues and shore up their other things like, well, we'll talk about their other losses in another video, hopefully later on today, maybe tomorrow. At any rate, you guys have yourself a wonderful Sunday. Sorry for the dismal news, but somebody's got to report on it. I'll chat with you guys later. See ya.